Hello again, welcome back everyone. LiquorHound here with you, and thank you for joining me once again for another spirit review video. So recently I was able to pick up the Sherrywood Pedro Ximenez Springbank 10, okay? This is a cask strength version of Springbank 10 that was done, I think it was, what was it, 7 years in refill bourbon cask, and then 3 years in fresh Pedro Ximenez hogsheads. And it says on the very back, it was distilled in July 2012, bottled October 2022, with an outturn of 10,800 bottles. Bottled at 55% ABV. Look at that color. 110 proof Springbank. So this bottle, when I picked it up, I was able, and I was very fortunate to be able to even get one bottle. But it was retailed at about 100 and, I guess, 160, 165 out the door for me. And so that's what this is going for. For comparison's sake, I wanted to just go side by side with just an old Springbank cask strength. And I just happened to grab the 50.3%, which I think came out in 2013, if I remember correctly, batch 7. This was a very, very good batch. And of course, these back in the day were maybe, what, $70, something like that. And while it's only 100.6 proof, you know, and this is 110, we'll just go ahead and see how they compare. Because I know this has a lot of Springbank profile on it, and I would like to see that in comparison, okay? All right, starting with the 50.3 Springbank Cask Strength 12. Good grief. Gotta be kidding me. I haven't touched this bottle in so long. Of course, I argon gas all my open bottles back there, with the exceptions of the ones that I feel like need to breathe a little bit. Oh, Mike, it's got the Springbank funk for days. That moderate peat, because that's what Springbank is, right? You got the hazel burn that's supposedly unpeated. It's unpeated, but they just have trouble cleaning the stills, so you just get a little bit of that long row running into the hazel burn, and it always has a little bit of that peat characteristic. But Springbank, when it's done in the past and when it's done right, it always has this kind of, again, kind of light machine oil funkiness to it. Very fun whiskey. It's not boring by any means. The malt shines, and this one has all that. You do definitely pick up a moderate amount of the peat, as you should. It's very savory, almost like bacon in here. In with the malt, in with the almost like soured fermented plums, which there's a barnyard element here. Again, barnyard to me is almost like indicative of some clan but more like those old Broras where they're going to get, it's fruity and it's malty, but there's a wisp of manure in the air, almost like you're at a rodeo, and again, you're catching the hay and you're catching all the aromas of the sweet funnel cakes and everything else, but then there's manure in the air. Ugh. Let's taste it. All right, here we go. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's fantastic. It's everything Springbank should be. I mean, there's been phenomenal single casks along the way, but this is like, it's got the honeyed malt. It's got that. But again, you have to dive more into the almost like a rancio. If you were talking in brandy, this would be rancio. It's almost into the cheesy realm, right? It's almost lightly like a Danish cheese, light blue cheese in here. Some light nuttiness, a little bit of earthy mushroom in there. That's all in there. Again, that big heavy weight to the malt and the Springbank distillate just shining through. That bacon tone is definitely in there. It shows up mid-palate and just rolls through the finish. It's a beautiful whiskey. Well done there. At only $65 back in the day. Of course, like most things, we should have bought a lot more, but hey, enjoy what we have. But the reason I wanted to do that first is because that's ex-bourbon barrel matured. There's no finish on it, but that is Springbank, okay? So now with that fresh on my memory, let's see what was it, 7 years in refill bourbon, followed by 3 years in fresh Pedro Ximenez hogsheads is like at 110. Okay. It's nice on the nose. And the one thing I should say about this bottle, retail pricing, 160. Unfortunately, it's sold like unbelievably fast. That secondary already is on about 500 for these. And I don't have a problem spending $500 on certain bottles, and I just want to verify whether or not this is one of those bottles. And so, on the nose, it does not scream Springbank. It's very nice, and I do pick up a ton of sherry in this one. There is a twinge of that old Springbank funk. A lot more on the kind of Christmas cake, fig pudding, like a fruit cake, like when you start getting those dried fruits in fruit cake. It's a lot of that. But there is a little bit of that kind of rancio cheesiness that this one had. There's a little bit of that mixed and mingled in there. There's also a little bit of orchard fruit. So when you start getting into those kind of like baked golden apples, golden raisins baked down as well in there, or in that fruit cake, that's in here. That light cheesy funk. There's a little bit of that in here. Now, I will say this bottle has been opening up. When I first opened this, it was about a month ago. It was very tight. It was sweet and it was sherried, but it did not have the Springbank profile. And so I did not want to review it then because I felt like it had more to give. So I've been letting this bottle breathe at this level. And that's when I'm starting to pick it up. And it's been a month. And I don't think it's done. I think it's going to take I'm guessing it's going to take 3 months of being open before it starts hitting its stride. It's a light version of this with the rancio, in with a heavy sherried profile. But let's taste it. Yeah, I would say medium viscosity, touch over, but I actually think that's the sherry kind of cheating it, where the sherry sweetness will make it feel a little more viscous than it actually is. I would still call this just a straight medium viscosity. As it enters, it's nice and rich. It does have that really nice sherry punch right away. You're getting all that kind of, again, fig pudding, Christmas cake, kind of jammy fruits up front. You get all that. That's really nice. A really nice, really kind of, there's a tobacco leather component that hits right early on, before you even hit the mid palate. That drops in. I really like that. There is a little bit of citrus in it. There's a touch of like a Meyer lemon, a little bit of Meyer lemon oil in there. That's usually a younger whiskey profile. Wow, super enjoyable. That light, again, light blue cheese is in there, starting to develop that. That nice phenol smoke is in there, so again, leans on that candied bacon. But again, lots of that kind of fig pudding and Christmas cake and the dried cherries and dried figs, dried apricot. That thing's all in there. The cocoa powder, the leather on the back end. You could talk me into being a little bit of even a little light pipe tobacco in there on the back end. I like that about it. Overall, it's super enjoyable. Do I wish it had a little more of this in that? Yes. Will I think it will get there? Not to this level, but it will pick up more as it opens up. So in 3 months, I think this will probably be drinking really, really good, but that's after 4 months of being open. And $500, that's tough. For a 10-year-old, that's really tough, okay? Now, are they going to be doing more of these expressions in different casks? Yes, and this is supposedly one of the first in that series. And so, you know, if you're a collector, I think that's a good buy at 500. I don't know. Me personally, I wouldn't pay more than that. That is like the limit. So regardless of what the collectors do with this from there on, you know, if they want to eventually get to $1,000 for that, I think it's ridiculous once they get to that point. But $500, that's my absolute max for this bottle. And so if you want to pick up one of those and you feel like dropping $500 on it, or if you're lucky enough to be out there in a store and you see this on the shelf, good grief, how lucky you are. Go ahead and buy that at $160. It's definitely worth that. And it's a great expression of a Pedro Ximenez, you know, finished Springbank. But to get a blend of barrels like this, it's pretty amazing, and it's very, very tasty. So I hope you enjoyed this video review. As always, if you can, please join me over at patreon.com/LiquorHound to help support this channel. Help me keep funding bottles like this that I self-purchase to do honest, unbiased reviews for you. Of course, if you are able to join me over there, you're going to get all these videos ad-free 2 weeks before they release on YouTube. But as always, I greatly appreciate each and every one of my viewers, regardless of where you're joining me on platform. Keep leaving all those great comments, and I'll get back to them just as soon as I can. Everyone have a great day, and cheers.